It's time once again for the mid-year games reflections. Basically, just mini reviews of games that I've played through and finished for the first time. This time, it's the 2020 edition. Now, these games can have come out yesterday, 30 years ago, or anywhere in between. They do not have to have been released this year. In fact, there's only one game on this list that did come out this year. One last note, these are my personal feelings and opinions on these games. I'm not looking to change anyone's minds, I'm just voicing my thoughts on the games that I played. If your opinions don't line up with mine, or mine with yours, nothing wrong with that. Without any further ado, let's get started. Oh boy, the first game of the year, Luigis Mansion 3. As a kid, I loved the first game, and the second one, Dark Moon, was good too, but it was different. There was much less emphasis on exploration, and instead it was a mission-based game. Luigis Mansion 3 definitely has more exploration than Dark Moon did, but it's pretty linear compared to the first game, and there's much less major ghost fights. Like I did mention though, there was definitely more exploration in Luigis Mansion 3, with 17 floors to go through as you rescue Luigi's friends from the terrors of the Last Resort Hotel. I think I can say with confidence that this is an 8 out of 10. This game certainly had a lot of charm put into it, with some floors standing out more than others, but this game felt uneven. What I mean by that is that some floors felt like they had pretty good pacing, with well-made puzzles and a fun gimmick. But then other floors had 2 rooms the boss of the floor, and that was the end of the area, making the whole area feel short. And then there's the fact that aside from side content like gems, boos, and achievements, there's rarely any reason to return to previous floors, which makes them feel kinda empty? I think that's the word I'm looking for. Final thoughts on the game. Pretty good game, definitely an improvement over the last game, but it feels slightly empty and lacking. Would make sense as a $40 to $50 game, but not a full price $60 game. So let's talk Pokemon. Pokemon is a series that's been around for over 20 years with 8 generations of games. Right now, we're gonna go over the latest main series games in the franchise, Pokemon Sword and Shield. Now, I know there's a lot of controversy surrounding these games. I've already stated my opinions on these controversies on Twitter, and I'm not going to talk about them in this mini review. With all that out of the way, let's get to it. Pokemon. You're a 10 or so year old kid, you get your starter Pokemon, your Pokedex, and you're off to catch and train Pokemon, so that you can become the greatest trainer in the region by beating up 8 or so specific people, and then fight the champion. Alright, so you have your basic Pokemon formula right there. But in this region, there are 2 new big things. The Wild Area, a giant biome of constantly shifting Pokemon where you can have free camera control. One day, you may find one set of Pokemon in one zone. The next, you may find completely different Pokemon roaming around in the same place. The other big thing is the literal big thing in this game. Dynamax, a gimmick in which Pokemon can become as big as skyscrapers and use powerful moves in order to shake up battles. I really like the Wild Area as a concept, but it falls flat in a few areas. This is definitely something I want to talk about in full, but in order to keep this video from getting too long, I'll have to save all of those thoughts for a full Sword and Shield review video, which will be coming eventually. Now for the other big thing, Dynamax. I disliked it when it was first shown off, and I still heavily dislike it, hence my nickname for it, Dynatrash. Sure, the Pokemon get to use moves that do different stuff in this form, but it's real bad, guys. The only stat that gets increased in this form is HP, so it feels useless to even use this form. In fact, I got through this game without using it once, and I hardly had any troubles without it. And it doesn't even make sense in the game's lore anyways. Oh, hey, your Pokemon got big. Oh, cool, its attack must be through the roof. What? No, don't be silly, Timmy. It's just dumb. Now, I had a little fun with this game, but the majority of the time playing it, it was holding my hand, telling me exactly where to go, whisking me away to some place that I didn't want to go yet. I hate this. If I'm on my adventure, it should be my adventure. Instead of me playing the game, it felt like the game was playing me. This was the worst, and I hate that. 4 out of 10. Guys, this is my least favorite Pokemon game that I've ever played, including the various spin-off games released over the years. I had fun at times, sure, but every single time I started having fun playing the game was like, excuse me, are you having fun? Not on my watch. And then it did something stupid that I hated. Every single time. Least favorite Pokemon experience ever. Oh, and also, I hated Hop, the story sucked, forced experience share is the worst, wasn't a fan of the techno-electronica garbage that was passed off as music in this game, and the pacing was awful, the end. Moving on to a more positive note, a game I actually liked. So this year, I wanted to finish more games that I started years ago that I never finished. This is one such game. NES Remix is a game I started in 2014 and never finished, so I think that fits the bill pretty nicely. NES Remix is a challenge collection for games on the NES. Gee, you don't say with a title like that. This game has challenges from 16 NES games varying between Super Mario Bros. 1, Zelda 1, Balloon Fight, even Pinball. For the most part, these challenges are pretty fun to accomplish, but some of them are pretty difficult to finish and even worse for getting Rainbow Stars on. Rainbow Stars, by the way, are gotten from beating challenges under certain times. Most of the games the challenges pull from are great games, which makes for fun challenges, but others are just bad. Either control badly or do not make for fun or interesting challenges. I feel like I'm saying the word challenges too much. Oh well, anyways. The games that don't fit this game are Ice Climbers and Golf. They're just unfun to do in this, with Ice Climbers having bad physics and Golf not having good or interesting missions. Along with the 12 main sections of the game, NES Remix also adds new twists on these games, such as playing Donkey Kong as Link who can't jump, or playing pinball with a ball that occasionally turns invisible. Honestly, these were the main reason I got the game, because the mashups are pretty fun. I have Rainbow Stars on every single challenge in this game, which was ridiculously hard. Out of all of these though, the final bonus challenge is the one that took the longest to beat, taking many attempts over the course of multiple days. For those who don't know, that one is a 44-part challenge where you have to collect mushrooms from various parts of Super Mario Bros. 1. It may not sound that bad, but it's actually the worst thing in this game. In a collection with ice climbers in it. Gross. However, I'd have to say that this game got a solid 8 out of 10. As far as game collections go, this one's pretty alright. It's mostly fun, fairly difficult, and is pretty satisfying to get the best times you can. If for some reason you have a Wii U, this is a game I can recommend getting. For the most part anyways. While we're on the topic of NES games, how about we move on to an NES-inspired game? Shovel Knight King of Cards. King of Cards, and Shovel Knight in general, is a great game. Its controls feel fluid, the stage design is superb, and the music is top tier. In King of Cards, you play as King Knight as you compete to become the Joustest King. There are two key components to this game, the platforming levels and the card games. In the platforming levels, King Knight can shoulder bash enemies and walls to do a spin jump that you can then use to bounce on objects and enemies. It's super fun to control and offers a new way to think about how to platform. It's great and I love it. The card game part of the game is also pretty fun. It's called Joustist, and in Joustist, you place your cards on spaces that gems are on to claim said gems. The person with the most gems when all the spaces are filled is the winner. You can't place your cards straight on top of the gems though. You have to use cards to push other cards onto the gem spots. Winning matches will also win you cards that you can then use to up your game. Be careful though, if you lose a match, your opponent can take one of your cards as well. There's a lot of strategy involved in this card game, and it bends your mind in ways that you may never have thought of. There's also cheats that you can buy with in-game currency to make the game easier, but you'll want to save your money for other things in the campaign. It's a neat add-on to a fun platformer. The game is a solid 9 out of 10 in my books. As a solo game, King of Cards is a really fun game, and it's a great way to cap off Shovel Knight as a whole. So, who here has ever wanted to be a snake? In Snake Pass, you are a snake called Noodle. You collect gems in order to unlock gates so you can finish the levels. Problem: snakes can't jump. So, you have to use your snake body to slither, coil, and climb around structures to collect everything and cross the gaps in the levels. As a result, this game is quite unique in being a 3D collectathon without being able to jump. The game is fairly short though, even with collecting all of the various items in each level, with the total amount of levels being 15. That being said, I had a fair bit of fun with the game, even if it isn't that long. But that's better than the alternative, which is the game overstaying its welcome with its game length. My one gripe with this game is the amount of bottomless pits and how useless your traveling buddy Doodle is. Maybe I wasn't using him right, but every time I tried to have him help carry me, it almost felt like he was flinging me straight into the pits below. For now, I don't want to see another bottomless pit for a little while. 8.5 out of 10. Like I said, I had fun. I've never seen a 3D collecting game without jumping, and this game was able to pull it off with being able to snake yourself through the various ruins and structures strewn throughout the game. Also, doesn't hurt that Noodle and Doodle are cute, expressive characters. But there was some jerkish collectible placement in certain areas as well as, like I said, too many bottomless pits. Fun game, I liked it. So this one's a weird one. Antechamber. It's a first-person puzzle game. There are a lot of games that I've played that would qualify as trippy, but this is definitely one of the trippiest ones I've ever played. And it's trippy in a way that I can't really explain. You'll have to see for yourself. So you go through this massive maze solving puzzles, and eventually you find a gun that can suck up and shoot out blocks. You use this to solve more puzzles and get upgrades to the gun so that you can solve even more puzzles. Along the way, there are signs all over the place with little diagrams and morals that have to do with how you solve the puzzles. There's no real story, you're just in this maze. And honestly, there doesn't need to be a story. This game is an experience on its own to be sure, even without a story. 9 out of 10. Originally, I got this game in 2015, I played it, and I didn't like the controls since it was all keyboard and mouse with no way to change to controller. At the time, I had never really played many games without a controller, so I shelved it for a long time because of that. I finally got around to finishing it this year, and it's certainly an experience that I think most everyone should at least try once. Like, for sure, beat it if you like the game, but Antechamber is a game that everyone should try to explore for an hour or two at least, even if you don't like video games. So I made the mistake of playing 4 different RPGs at the beginning of this year. Earthbound for YouTube, Pokemon Sword for Twitch, Xenosaga also for Twitch, which was later moved to YouTube instead, and Fire Emblem 3 Houses. That's a lot of RPGs in a short amount of time. They're all vastly different games, but they're all fairly lengthy games. For the moment, let's talk about that last game. Fire Emblem 3 Houses is a tactical JRPG where you become a professor in charge of one of the houses at the Officers' Academy of Garreg Mach, the Monastery of Fodlan. Depending on what house you choose to be in charge of, the story changes drastically, eventually putting you in a faction in a war with the other factions formed. As I said before, I made a mistake, because this game is a long boy to be sure. However, this game is a very enjoyable game. I love being able to explore the monastery. The support conversations with students and fellow faculty were fantastic, and being able to teach and train my students the way I wanted was a treat. As with all Fire Emblem games, the battle style is a tactical turn-based system, but it's pretty par for the course for Fire Emblem games, aside from a few tweaks here and there. Not that that's bad at all, since the combat is pretty fun. At the time of writing this, I've only gone through the Silver Snow route. It was a real good story, but I have to wonder what the other routes were like. Regardless, the story was great. I did go with the Scrub Normal Casual mode, but despite that, the game was actually fairly difficult at times. I especially had troubles with the final battle. Man, that was a brutal last chapter. I'm going to give this a solid 9 out of 10. I had a lot of fun with this game, but I don't really like the schedule system that it has. I was pretty diligent for grinding for certain things in this game, but because of the schedule system in place, there was a lot of missable stuff in the game that I missed. That being said, it's a great game. So there is a credits to this game, and there is an end goal to it as well, so I guess this counts as me beating it. Animal Crossing: New Horizons. I didn't think I'd be playing this game this soon. I didn't think I'd be beating the game this soon either. But lo and behold, both have happened. This game took the entire world by storm. It's one of the most purchased games in 2020, so I don't think I need to explain what this game is. New Horizons adds a ton of new stuff compared to previous games. Placing furniture outside, crafting furniture, customizing said furniture, crafting tools, loads of new things. I also love having the free roam camera inside houses so you can see all of the decorations, and utilizing it to customize your home the way you want to is great. I was impressed at how much control you had when it came to home decorating. I believe that part was a Happy Home Designer edition though, so it's not a completely new thing. I didn't play that entry though, so it's new to me, dang it. In addition to new stuff, you also have the classic staples in the series. The animal villagers are great to talk to as always, and you have a museum to fill up with critters, fossils, and now, with one of the newest updates, art once again. This game kind of completely took over my life for like 3 weeks, and I can see why it took the whole world by storm now. Especially with what's going on with the world at the time of writing this. 9 out of 10. I had a lot of fun customizing my island the way I wanted. It took a bit to get to the point where I could go crazy with it, but I had a lot of fun along the way. And I'm going to continue having fun adding to my slice of paradise as I'm able to gain new decorations and as new updates come out for the game. There are some minor nitpicks I have though, such as the terraforming not being quite as refined as I'd like, but the fact that it's even a thing is incredible. A very specific example is I can't put freaking pavement under the front of my museum, and it's driving me bananas every time I walk past the dang building. The game is just so picky when dealing with terraforming near buildings or items such as trees. I digress though, it's amazing that we even have the option to do this stuff. Great entry into the Animal Crossing franchise. Everyone needs a chill, relaxing game now and then that, while good to chill to, still has a clear goal in mind. Animal Crossing is great for that, but this next game is also a nice time. And if you just want a short game to play, even better. This is Kapooka. You're a bird. You fly around this town collecting stuff to build a nest. That really is all there is to this game. Aside from the apparent kidnapping, sick people, and revolution happening throughout the town in the couple-hour playthrough of the game. But such affairs do not matter to you, for you are a simple bird. You learn of all of these events happening by listening in on people throughout the town, and I like that there is a story, but for the most part it's simple and in the background for people who don't care about that and just want to fly around. Flying around Kapooka is real nice too. I could honestly fly around this town for hours even after beating it without getting too bored because the flight feels so nice. That being said, it would be cool if there was more to do in the game, but it's also nice to have a good short simple game to beat. The setting of this game is real pretty too, while being fairly simplistic, and adds quite a bit to the enjoyment of flying around this town. 8.5. This game is real pretty, and like I said, I'm glad the game wasn't too long, but it could still use some polish in certain areas. Not a lot of polish, just a smidge here and there. Otherwise, great game. Side note, the soundtrack is fantastic, and it's free on Steam if you have the game over there, and it's like $1 on Bandcamp, so go get it. So before I start this next one, I'm going to put out 2 major warnings. First, this game, as well as the series as a whole, is rated M for mature. Lots of blood and profanity, as well as other mature themes. Secondly, I highly recommend playing both Bioshock 1 and Bioshock Infinite before playing this. So much so that I'm going to keep this pretty short because if you haven't played either, it won't make much sense. And since I played all the Bioshock games before Games Reflections existed, no Bioshock games have been on the channel, and the series likely won't be coming up as a Let's Play anytime soon. You may have pieced it together by now, but this is Bioshock Infinite, Burial at Sea. Now, onto the game. You return to the underwater city of Rapture, the setting of Bioshock 1 before the events of the game. As well as a new story, there are new powers and new guns, both of which are brand new to the series. It's really cool to see what Rapture is like before all the bad things happen. And it's good to know that everyone down there was always a bunch of awful, terrible people. I also really like that the things that happen in Burial at Sea set in motion certain things that happen in Bioshock 1 and Infinite. Some may consider it retconning the games and don't like it because of that, but I'm a fan of expanding on the lore in this crazy world. 8.9 out of 10. This DLC is kinda short for what it is, and as a result you don't get to experiment with powers and weapons as much as I'd like, but it was a real good time. The story was crazy as is in all of the Bioshock games, and the gameplay is fun. However, there were a couple points in this that were aggravating with how difficult some sections were, especially in Episode 2. But overcoming the challenge can feel really good, and paired with fun gameplay and great story, like I said, makes a great combination. If you've been paying attention to the channel this year, there's a chance you may have seen this game on the channel already. Let's just jump in. Xenosaga 1.
Der Wille zur Macht.
Giant robots. Space. Mystery. Space. Existential crisis. Space. What more could you possibly ask for in a game? There's so much I could say about this game, but I'm going to try to be vague and recommend that you watch the blind Let's Play I put up on the channel if you want to learn more. Or pick up the game yourself. Xenosaga is a turn-based JRPG that came out in 2002 in Japan and 2003 internationally. I love the battle system in this game, even if I didn't get some of the finer intricacies until later into the game. The characters are great. They're also fantastic in their own ways. Shion, KOS-MOS, Ziggy, and many more faces. I love them all so much. The settings of this game are varied and so unique. One moment you'll find yourself on space stations fighting robots. Another you'll find yourself in a forest against interdimensional monsters. But most of the time you'll find yourself aboard spaceships. I love space, man. It's so gorgeous and awe-inspiring. And the story, man, it's so good. It's so great. I love it. Monolith Soft knows how to make a story. And even with story, this game is only part 1. So there's more of the story to see with the rest of the games. Xenosaga has so many moving parts that mesh together so wonderfully, and I love it so much. 9.7 out of 10. I've been singing the many praises of this game because I have had a fantastic time playing this game. However, it's not without its faults. It is a bit dated in a few of its mechanics and how the game flows sometimes, but it's entirely excusable seeing as it's an early PS2 game. As well as the fact that it has so much going for it that it more than makes up for the very few not so good parts. The only big thing that I would have really liked that isn't here is a free roam camera. I would have loved to move the camera around and explore all of the incredible sights in the game. But even without that, I had an incredible time with the game. I really want more people to give this game a chance because it's unique and very special to me. So, as I'm writing this, I do realize that I've rated most of these games pretty close to each other in terms of numbers. That's honestly just a testament to how good and well made most of these games are. For the most part, I had a pretty enjoyable time with the majority of these games. I'm glad I was able to fit in as many games as I was, despite the game choices in the beginning of the year. I was hoping I could get more in, but I probably shouldn't have started like 4 different RPGs in January, so that's on me. Hopefully I can fit in more games that I've been meaning to play for a while, because that list is constantly growing and it's not going away anytime soon. But aside from that goal, I don't really have anything specific in mind for the rest of the year. Aside from one game I'm currently in the middle of, but let's not talk about that right now. So who knows what the next Games Reflections has in store. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you here again. Have a great rest of the year.